You're listening to Genuine Chit-Chat. This show is for real.
Hello friends, just a quick thing to say, obviously thank you for listening as always, but this is a little Halloween special for yourselves, partly because myself and Megan are going away to Disneyland Paris tomorrow, or rather today, the date of this being released to yourselves, so I don't have time to do all of the editing for my amazing conversation with Elise. It's in two parts. Obviously Patreon supporters will get all of it in one go, but yeah, I didn't want to rush it and I didn't want to make any errors and make the show notes not as good as I usually do, so I thought I'll give yourselves a little treat, a little trick or treat. The trick is that you don't get the episode with Elise, that is fantastic, but the treat is you get 3 episodes of our Patreon spooky season. So on Patreon we are doing Halloween rewatches. We did them last year as well. This year we're doing a lot of Scream stuff. Last year we watched a lot of the Halloween movies, so I thought I'd include a couple. So you've got Scream 1 in this, you've also got Halloween, I think we did the first 3, and then we've also done Hocus Pocus. So 3 nice horror or Halloween themed movies, and 2 of them we released this year on Patreon, and the Halloween one we released last year. So obviously keep that in mind when we keep referring to our Patreon supporters, because it's recorded for Patreon, and also the Halloween one was recorded last year. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're listening. I hope yourselves enjoy this, and if you do, please consider going over to patreon.com/genuinechitchat, because for as little as £1 a month, then you get access to hours and hours of additional content, including all these sorts of things. And with the Scream movies in particular, me and Megan have been releasing a Scream review every other day, so that's really fun. By the time of this one coming out, I think 3 of them will be out, but by the time we return from Paris on the Thursday, the 4 of them should be out, maybe even the 5th one, depending how much time I get. But there are also going to be other non-Scream and franchise-related movies. We've got a few more planned before the year is up, and we recently watched Little Shop of Horrors, so if you want to hear our thoughts on that, make sure you become a supporter of the show. But thank you as always so much, my friends. I will not be back at the end. This is just a little intro thing, and then you're just going to get each of them play one after another. So I really hope you enjoy this as much as myself and Megan enjoy doing it, and if anyone wants to become a Patreon supporter to help keep the gears running on this show and get hours of bonus content, that would be fantastic. If not, just share the show with your friends, review on Apple Podcasts and Good Pods and Spotify and all those sorts of places, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/genuinechitchat. Thank you so much, my friends. I hope you have a wonderful spooky season, and I should be talking to yourselves next week with part 1 of my conversation with Elise McCall, who is the artist of the Reburn comics, and obviously I've spoken with her and Alison Shelton previously on Genuine Chit-Chat. But without further ado, here is some spooky stuff. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people, and I'm your host, Mike Burton. Snake jazz. Jazz of the snake. You need to get a little bit closer to the microphone, or our lovely listeners won't be able to hear a word you're saying.
Hello. It's me.
I mean, that's actually the side of the mic, that's the front.
Alright, well, hello, it's me.
Look how loud it went. You're making people go deaf. So, hello friends. We are talking about films, which are also the name of the special season we're in, which are Halloween. So me and Megan have never seen any of the Halloween films before, so went on a big old hype. We watched Halloween 1, 2, 3, then Halloween H2O 20 years later, and then Halloween 2018, which obviously is the remake / reboot / sequel that retcons some of the other films, and then we're also going to be watching Halloween Kills at the cinema at some point. So I think we might do another podcast in a bit of just about Halloween 2018 and another about Halloween Kills. But we're going to be watching a lot of horror films. We watched The Thing recently. That was quite good.
That's right.
You're now mixing the different films. We can do a separate one.
What, for The Thing?
Yeah.
What, we'll do it for The Thing and The Thing Prelude?
Yeah, if you want.
If you want. I can even invite Kerry. Have her on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Your face said no, but your
My
voice
face
said
didn't
yes.
say no. My face says, can we get on with this podcast?
Can we get on with this podcast, Michael? Yes. So, had you heard of the Halloween movies?
Yeah, I'd heard of them. I didn't know anything about them, but I'd heard that there were films called Halloween. That was as much as my knowledge went for these movies. So, and I knew that they were old.
Did you know? So, you never heard of Michael Myers?
I feel like...
You've probably heard it in rap songs, because rappers
me.
go on about Michael Myers all the time.
I feel like if someone had said, have you heard of Michael Myers? I'd be like, that name rings a bell, but I have no idea why.
Well, Mike Myers is the actor who plays Austin Powers in Shrek.
Oh, yeah, I'd probably get that confused, to be honest.
Yeah, which is always a joke about, like, there's a t-shirt design which is, it says Michael Myers on it, and it's got Austin Powers' body with the face mask of Halloween.
Yeah. I feel, I don't know, maybe, I have no idea, so.
Well, it's funny because Jamie Lee Curtis, she's fairly famous, but I only really know her because of being the mum in New Girl.
I know her from Freaky Friday.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's basically Freaky Friday and being the mum from New Girl. They're the only reasons I know who she is, really. Which is quite bad, because this is where she started out in Halloween 1.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
Why? You want me to do these podcasts with you, and then all you do is take the mick.
Actually, all of our lovely listeners want you to do the podcast as well.
Yeah.
Because you haven't really seen many horror films, have you?
I've seen some. I've seen a handful of horror films. They're just not my genre. I'm not a massissive fan of horror movies.
Yeah, but this month you're on the bloody hype.
I am. I've been taken over by a demon, arguably, for it is Halloween. Well, October.
It was very different from when we were first dating, because when we were our first Halloween together, you wouldn't even watch Blair Witch Project or anything.
It's not that I wouldn't watch it, it's just that I didn't want to watch it. The problem is, I have no interest in watching Blair Witch Project, and everyone that I've spoken to has said that they don't like it, apart from you.
And Reese.
So it doesn't really intrigue me that much. And also, I've heard that it's just a lot of shaky camera. There's not really anything happens.
The thing is the first one is great, but I think you'll probably enjoy the second one more. Well, I say the second one. There's like 5, I think, which I only found out like today.
Oh, why do they make so many movies of the same?
Because horror films are really easy to make on a low budget. You don't need any real special effects. You just need fake blood and screaming. And as long as you've got that, you basically can make a horror film.
I can make a horror film.
The Nightmare on Elm Street films, there's 10 of them.
That's disgusting.
Friday the 13th, there's
so
10 of them as well. Actually, no, I think it's more than 10. I think there's 12 of them in total. Halloween films, there's Halloween 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Halloween H2O, Halloween Resurrection, and then the 2 reboots of Halloween as well.
It's so ridiculous. Why do you need so many movies of the same thing?
Because horror films are one of the few films I think actually really benefit from being remade. The only problem is that there's very few remakes of horror films that are really good.
Well, there's hardly any horror films that are actually good. Like, a lot of them are bad.
I say I really like horror films, but the problem is 90% of horror films are bad.
I think it depends on the genre of horror film, because even within horror film, for me, there's so many different types of horror films. Like, if you're going to give me a film that is just all gore, then I'm not going to like it, because I'm not a massive fan of gore.
Yeah.
Like, even with the Saw films, and I've seen
3. No, 4.
I've seen most of them.
I showed you the 4 good Saw films. Yeah.
And we saw Jigsaw.
Oh, did I show you Jigsaw?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen quite a lot of Saw films, and the first one is always going to be my favourite because it's smart. Like,
the second one's quite smart.
It is, but I just find from the second one
place.
onwards, to be fair, the second one is fairly smart as well, but I just find that they make things gory for the sake of being gory, and then for me, that's not enjoyable anymore.
The shock factor.
Yeah.
The thing is, I really like Saw 1 to 4. I think they're really, really good movies, and I think they're clever with the way they're made and lots of interesting parts. However, there are a lot of parts, and you're just like, this does not need to happen. The reverse crucifix, I can't even watch. That's absolutely horrendous.
That's the thing, there's so many of them that I can't watch that it just gets to the point that it's just like, what's even the point of me watching it?
Hostel sucks. I've seen the first 2 Hostel movies, and they are literally just gore for the sake of gore. It's pretty horrendous. There's one bit where there's someone hung upside down, and this woman is like naked, and she slits the person's throat, and then is like touching herself while the blood's falling on her.
Ew, that's so gross.
It's horrendous. It's awful. Yeah, Hostels are not a great movie.
To go back to the original point, no, I've not seen that many horror films, but I have seen a handful. I've seen The Grudge, but not the...
You saw the Sarah Bishop Gellar one,
I've seen the American version, yeah.
Patty, that's terrible.
What
about Scooby-Doo? That's also got Sarah Bishop
Gellar.
I
was thinking about Scooby-Doo earlier, because I saw something on Facebook and it was saying, like, Spooky Island, and I was like, do you know what, actually? I was like, we should watch Scooby-Doo, because arguably... that's a Halloween movie. And it's fucking great. Both the first one and the second one are actually really good.
The second one's not quite as good as the first one.
No,
the first one is ace.
Can we watch them?
At some point, yes.
Oh, I'd be so game to watch both the first and the second Scooby-Doo movies. I really enjoyed them.
I've heard the third one is awful.
I didn't even know that there was a third one.
Well, there's 3 of them which were made around the same period of time, and then there's a new one out which is, I think, just called Scooby.
Right.
And that one's like the new one, but I think that's 3D animated. I can't remember.
No, I want to watch the one with Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah. But anyway, with Halloween, so I thought that I was really, really surprised how much I enjoyed Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. I think Halloween 2 is pretty much as good as the first one, but they did a really good job.
See, I was thinking about this earlier as well, because I was talking to one of my colleagues about Halloween, and she said that she doesn't like the second one as much, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, actually, yeah, I don't think I like the second one as much, because there's it's much slower paced, I think.
See, I don't think it is.
I think it is, though, because there's literally no one in the hospital. Why, like, how is this hospital even functioning? Like, there is no one in this hospital. You literally have the nurse, you have the doctor, and a receptionist.
Yeah.
They're the only 3 people that work at this hospital. And then you've got the guy who's there, and then obviously Laurie, which is Jamie Lee Curtis, that's in the hospital, like, as a patient.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no one there. No one else is there.
I think the idea is that it's going to be a really small town and really, really small
I
hospital.
understand that, but even in a really small town and a really small hospital, you'd have more than 3 members of staff working.
Well, not tonight.
That's what I mean.
No,
but there's loads of slow time in the time at the hospital for the second one, which is why I don't think it's as good, because I think it's a bit slower paced.
Yeah, I think there are a lot more silly bits as well. There's like that bit where that guy like slips on the floor in blood, and you think, oh, he's dead,
and then he cracks his head,
and then he's not dead,
and he dies in the car with his neck at that weird angle.
Yeah, that's pretty horrendous.
Even though he didn't die from anyone doing his neck, he literally just like
died.
Yeah,
it's quite. I feel. Yeah, I see what you mean. The second one is a lot more disjointed, but I feel like they work really well as like one event, because obviously it happens in the same night. And I think the first film works really well by itself, but I also think that the second film works really well as a sequel.
I agree. I think it works well together. I just don't think the second one's as good as the first one.
That's fair. I mean, to be fair, with most horror films like that, I mean, It Chapter 2 is not as good as It Chapter 1.
To be honest, I don't really remember any of those. All I remember is the horrible spider bit.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's the second one, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't really remember much about these films. I was also talking about this at work today, in that I don't remember movies.
Yeah, you don't at all. You have to watch them like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, Tori was like, so do you fall asleep? And I was like, no. I was like, I just don't remember them. I was like, they go in my brain, and then like a couple of days later it just disappears. Because they were talking about Jojo Rabbit, and I'm not going to say anything that happens in that film.
I can tell what.
But there was one scene. There's one scene in particular. They were like, oh yeah, and when that bit happens, it was heart wrenching, and I was like, I literally have no recollection of that bit ever happening in my life.
You didn't even remember that bit.
I was like, I literally have no memory of any of this happening. And Tori was like,
it's the main part of the film.
Yeah, she was like, are you joking? And I was like, no. She's like, but you watched it in the cinema? I was like, yeah, I watched it. I remember not enjoying it that much, but I have no other recollection of what happens in that film.
Yeah. I remember, the thing is, I'd say I remember probably about 10 to 20% of films I watch at the cinema. Like, not like verbatim, like I can remember that much dialogue, but like with Jojo Rabbit as an example, like I can remember the main plot points. I can remember like specific parts, like every 15 minutes in that film I could tell you generally what's going on, and I remember the characters. But
the weird thing for me as well, it doesn't even matter if it's a film that I really enjoyed or a film that I didn't. Because like Ant-Man, for example, I remember enjoying that film.
What about V for Vendetta?
I could not tell you anything about what happens in Ant-Man. I literally couldn't remember a single thing apart from he gets small because he's a fucking ant. Otherwise, I have no memory. V for Vendetta is slightly different because I think that's a different genre of film.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen anything like that, so there's quite a lot of things that I do remember about that movie.
Because it's so striking in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I love that film so much. I'm so happy you enjoyed it.
Like, I can remember, like, specific characters as well, like Stephen Fry was in it. Like, that doesn't normally happen with other films. Like, I literally couldn't tell you, apart from Hank Pym, who else is in Ant-Man.
Well, like Interstellar, for example. You weren't as fussed on that?
On Interstellar, I remember them just being in the spaceship. I remember the planet where they age.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, like, the end, which is the turn to do with the library.
Yeah.
And the books. But otherwise, yeah. But that is basically the film. Like, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember only bits more than that, but obviously we don't necessarily spoil it for people. I see what you mean. I mean, I generally do remember films more.
But again, that's a different kind of film. I've not seen anything like that, so I'm probably more likely going to remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there are certain films for me that I've seen. Like, I've seen the film Ponyo, apparently, and that's a Studio Ghibli Disney film, and I literally cannot remember anything about it. In fact, until like 10 years ago, or no, 8 years ago, so I was so adamant I'd never seen it, and my mate Bradley was like, no, you watched that with me and with your brother. Like, I remember the whole film, and I was like, what did you say? I was like, convinced I'd never even seen it. So there are the odd films that slip through the cracks. But Halloween, I thought, Halloween 1 was ace. I think, the music is very iconic.
I hate it because it's a loop.
And I think that's
and it makes it makes my body feel awful because I want it to carry on.
If it
just keeps going, and it's a horrible key. It's really eerie, which obviously is the point, but and the high notes, so they're all I
think it does it well. It makes you.
It does do it well, but I hate the music. Every time I hear it, my arms are like a cat. When a cat sees something it doesn't like in a cartoon, and it's
yeah.
That's what my body feels like.
The thing is that I think that's one of the reasons that John Carpenter especially is so clever, because a lot of films nowadays, when you do jump scares or you do things, if you do jump scares, you do quiet music and then sudden loud music when something happens. And when you want to make things tense, you have general music at most times, and then you just have music off. And that's more or less it. And when there's no music playing, that's when things become a bit more tense in general. But with that film, it was when he's revealed and he's chasing after people, it's just this horrible noise. And it's I want this noise to end, and I think it's meant to emulate, I just want this guy to stop chasing me.
I will say with the guy chasing them, fucking Michael Myers, how does he kill so many people if he only walks? He walks. If you just ran away from him, you'd get away. You would just run.
I think the thing is that...
But they're too busy fucking screaming and turning around and tripping over shit.
Although I agree with you, most horror tropes, most baddies in horror are really slow. Because the problem is, if he could run, he would literally just kill everyone really quick, and that'd be kind of be the end of it. But because he's so slow and he's quite stealthy and careful with it, it's like with there's a film called It Follows that has a similar premise. Zombies in general, I know they're not stealthy, but zombies are really slow, but they used to be very scary. And there's lots of like the Mummy, Frankenstein, they kind of walk at you slowly.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think it's meant to be just this unstopping presence, and it's almost like it doesn't matter how long it takes to get to you, it's still coming for you.
It's looming. Mike's just doing some media studies work over here. He's getting his GCSE.
I mean, I've already got my media studies GCSE.
All
it's
right,
the highest rating I got. Got a B. Got a B. I got a B.
Was it B the highest you got? Oh, I thought you meant A. That's A GCSEs then.
No, GCSEs. I didn't do it at GCSE. I don't think media.
That's what you just said you did. You just said you did it at
GCSE.
but
I didn't mean to say. I meant at A level.
Oh, you did it at A levels. Okay.
Yeah, got a B.
Nice.
Yeah. It's the only thing I really cared about in college. But anyway, that's the true horror. I thought, well, let's just keep this to Halloween 1 and 2 then, just because they work together. I mean, I will say, we did watch Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh, that was not great.
I would say, if people really like horror and you want to watch the Halloween movies...
And you like a single little booby sex scene.
If you want to see boobs but no nip, because there's a no nipple clause in her contract, Stacey Nelkin.
I find that really... It was essentially if they'd it's kind of like porn, isn't it?
It's basically
it was very porny.
It was, and it was especially...
It made me feel mildly uncomfortable. Not that I think porn is uncomfortable, but watching it, if I'd have been with someone else aside from Mike and watching it, I'd be like, I feel a bit weird. Yeah, if I watched it with my mum, I think I'd be like, oh, this is a bit weird. Or the kind of thing where I'm if I'm watching it with my brother, me and my brother would 100% just look at each other and be like, ugh. And I just realised what we're watching. It's like when we've watched the In-Betweeners, and then they say really dirty jokes, and then you both laugh, and then my brother looks at me and he's like, you're too young to understand that. And then it's kind of this, oh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or am I just rambling?
Both.
Oh,
I know what you mean, but you are also rambling.
I hope everyone that you understand what I mean, but I guess if you haven't seen the In-Betweeners, that's not really a relevant reference.
I mean, you did get with other things, but the sex scene in Season of the Witch is
unnecessary.
Weird, and there's no need for it at all. As attractive as both of the people are, I don't really want to see it. I'm just this is just happening now. And when you first watch it, there's one point where the two characters kiss for a second, I thought, and then it cuts away, and you're like, oh, I think I even said, I was like, oh, I thought they were going to have sex. I'm so glad there's not a pointless sex scene in this movie. Did. I was like, this actually might really boost to the film for me if it just goes back to them and it's just after they've had sex and they're in bed together chatting afterwards. I was like, you don't always need to show sex. What's the next thing after the scene cuts back happens? Oh. She gets out of the bloody shower.
Sexy sex.
And then she just... Or is it she wearing lingerie? Either way, she still instigated it with him. And then there's a point where they're laying in bed. And then they were going to go to sleep. And then she was like, oh, are you still tired? And he was like, you're not? Kind of thing. And she's basically trying to have sex with him.
Yeah, because he's 5,000 years old and she's 12.
Well, yeah, I think she's meant to be 21 and he's meant to be 46 or 47 or something.
I was going to say 51.
I think there's a 26-year age difference.
Right.
which is still fucked up considering you
It's
and
not
I.
fucked up, but it's
So
quite a sizable
size-wise-
difference.
Size-wise, at that age, like 21 to 47, it's like that is like, I would recommend against that relationship. Like if I meet people who are in that relationship, I wouldn't be mean to them or judge when I meet. But
Everyone
it's one of those
listens to
things.
Mike, Cupid's best mate.
Well, my parents were 10 years different, 10 years apart, and that's like, okay, when you get over 30, 10 years does not really seem like that much. Like, in comparison, like the difference. But when you're like 21 and you're dating someone who is over double your age, they're old enough to, like, there's the term old enough to be your parent, but there's like, he's old enough to be your granddad in theory. It'd be a push. Yeah, it'd be a push.
It would have to be really young.
If you're 17 years old and you have a kid, and then your kid is 17 now.
All right. I
Even if both
was
kids
going
are
to say
20.
something and I can't remember what I was going to say now because you went off on a tangent.
Season of the Witch, the masks were quite cool. Oh, we saw them in Halloween. In the
That
new
was a
film.
nice little.
That was a good
What's it
little
called? An egg.
Easter egg.
An Easter egg.
What is that? What are those little eggs?
I like little eggs.
couldn't
I like
sound-
eggs in my movies.
I couldn't sound more like an old person if I tried. Excuse me, everyone. Did you know I like to go to bed at 9:30? I knit. And I think they're called the eggs.
Those eggs in those movies.
Oh, I'm going to write about this on the Facebook.
Gross.
Gross.
But yeah, so I think the trilogies itself don't usually work as a trilogy.
The third film has no relation
No.
to anything to the previous film, like, at all.
No,
Like,
because
none whatsoever.
John Carpenter wanted it to be basically Halloween was just like the banner, and it was just random crazy shit happening at Halloween. That was basically what they wanted.
Yeah, well, if they wanted to do that, they should have not had a sequel film, and it should have been a different storyline. And then it could have worked as like a set of anthology films, but...
Or even if, yeah, that's what a lot of people online said. They said if they just made the first one and then made the second one and then made Season of the Witch, it probably would have worked. But because
or had a different storyline altogether in the middle, one that had no relation to Laurie Strode.
yeah,
Strode?
it's-
Stroud.
I think it is.
Laurie Strode?
I think
Strode.
it's Strode, but they say it in the American accent.
Strode. No.
What was that? I don't even know why you attempted that.
Stroud.
I don't do this. There's no right answer here, Megan.
Strode.
That
That was good. Strode.
There you go. That's
Strode. There we go. I found it. Strode.
it. Yeah, Laurie Strode.
Laurie Strode. That's my American, everyone. Hire me as an actress.
Voice actress.
Yeah, I'll be a voice actress. Yeah, I'll be a voice actress. I've got very good accents.
We can speak 4 languages, so you'd be able to get all that down easy. It could be any one of those characters. You'd be a superhero of some sort who speaks other languages.
That'd be cool.
That'd be fun. Animated in Invincible.
Well, hire me, Marvel.
On my Patreon, yeah, because one of the Marvel executives is supporting us on Patreon.
Yeah, it's Margaret Green.
Jesus. Anyway, what do you give the 3 Halloween movies then?
Right, I think 7.5 to Halloween, 7 to Halloween 2, and 6.5 to Halloween 3.
There's quite a lot for Halloween 3. But yeah.
That's quite a lot for Halloween 3. I mean, there was that horrible booby scene, so maybe a 6, but...
Yeah, it was kind of fun though. It was just there's certain bits.
Oh, was
just
it
went on
now?
there.
Was it kind of fun?
Yeah,
What,
the
the booby
woman.
scene? The booby scene was kind of fun, was it?
Not overly, no. She's even too young for me now. Like that's like I'm literally only a few years older
She's
than her.
a dirty little child.
It's like I'm 27 and she's like 21 and she looks about 18 and it's like that is. You've just had your dad die literally moments ago.
Oh shit, yeah,
I
her
don't
dad died.
want-
See, this is what I mean, I forgot.
think
That's
you're
literally the first thing that
emotionally-
happens in that movie.
I don't think it's a good thing for me to deal with your vulnerability. Even if you're the instigator, I just still don't think that's the right thing to do.
No sex.
And that's me now to that a girl 6 years
Alright,
younger than me.
everyone, listen to Moral Mike.
Moral Mike.
Moral Mike.
Yeah. But
Good old Moral Mike.
you did get to see the guy's tush though, didn't you?
I did see his tush, so we're getting closer.
You got
ladies.
no nipple boob and
No nipple
man
boob
tush.
and a man tush.
Yeah.
Man tush sounds like an animal. Mum, did you just see the man tush?
It sounds like a Pokemon.
Yeah, it does. Anyway, what would you give it?
I think I would give Halloween an 8. Halloween 2 probably a 7.5. Yeah, and Halloween 3 probably a 6.
Wow, you're rating them so much higher than me.
Well, Halloween 3 are very the same. I think Halloween
3 are the same, yeah.
I think that Halloween 1, I think genuinely, apart from it's a bit slow, there's not really anything.
Would you
like
give it 8.5?
No, 8.
Oh, right, 8. Okay.
I just think it's solid.
I suppose I'm giving it a 7.5.
I think it's a good film. I think it's a good horror film, but watching. It's one of those strange films where I'm not like, yeah, Halloween 1 was amazing. It was fucking sick. I'm so happy I watched it. It's more so like, I quite like the idea, and it's because it's so good in its simplicity. That's why I quite like that whole...
Yeah, the only thing that bugs me is that I want to know why he killed his sister. Why is he like this? No one ever knows why he's like this.
I think that's the point.
Yeah, but I want to know why.
Yeah, but I think that's the whole
point.
Why would
a 6-year-old kill his sister?
I mean, there are 6-year-olds, or maybe not quite that young that I know of, but
like,
there are kids who kill things.
Yeah, I understand that. But, like, I want to know why and how this all happened. Like, I want to know that information. So,
I don't think you're ever going to know.
Whatever your name is, John Carpenter, if you're listening to this, can you please just tell me why? Even if you don't make a movie about it... Just specifically tell me, please, because it sometimes keeps me up at night. Why, I don't know.
Well, the thing is, because we haven't
just want to know.
We haven't seen 4, 5, or 6, and I think 4, 5, and 6 to give some of his backstory, because one of them's called The Curse of Mike Myers, one of them's called The Revenge of Mike Myers.
Apparently they're shit.
Yeah, and I've heard from a lot of people, like, just don't watch them. That's why we skipped them. We just done 1, 2, I want to watch 3. And
I might just Google it, to be honest. Why is my Myers the way he is?
H2O, and then Halloween 2018.
See if there's a response on the internet.
On the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically our thoughts on Halloween, guys. Tell us what you think of the first 3. I'd be intrigued to know. And as I said, we've already watched H2O and the 2018 Halloween movie, so might do a podcast on them. Maybe.
Might not.
Might do them together.
Probably will, because Mike will make me.
That is correct.
All right then, guys. Thank you for listening as always.
Bye.
It's
Stroud.
I think it is.
Laurie Strode?
I think
Strode.
It's Strode, but they say it in the American accent.
Strode. No.
What was that? I don't even know why you attempted that.
Stroud.
I don't do this. There's no right answer here, Megan.
Strode. That was good. Strode.
There's a hint in the afterthoughts we're doing, even though you clicked on the title of it, so you know what it is already. It's Scream, the original one from 1996. The second one came 97, third one 2000, and fourth one 2022.
Right, mate.
Exciting stuff. So we're doing our Halloween watch thing again.
It's spooky season.
It is.
Soon I'm going to have lots of gourds.
Yes, gourds, pumpkins primarily. But we're going to be...
No, I'm going to get loads of warty ones as well.
Oh, God, those gourds. Anyway, so we decided to do another horror franchise. Last year we did the Halloween movies, and so this year we decided to do Scream.
Except there is going to be some Halloween thrown in there, because there are a couple of Halloween movies that we haven't seen.
Yeah, it depends if we go to the cinema or not this month.
Well, we'll definitely watch the one from last year.
Halloween Kills.
And then it might be next year that we watch the one
Halloween
from this
year. Yes, so we will do a continuation of our Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis watch, but this is Scream. So you hadn't seen Scream before this. What did you know about Scream?
I knew about the mask. Anything that I knew to do with Scream is because I've seen it in the scary movie movies. So I thought it was going to be more comedic.
So did I.
I didn't think it was going to be as gory and brutal as it was. Because the only references that I've seen to it again are obviously from a parody film, which is more comedic anyway.
Yeah.
Well, try to be more comedic anyway.
I hate the scary movies.
Yeah, Mike hates them. I don't mind them so much.
I don't mind an epic movie. That's the one out of all of them I don't mind.
But yeah, so yeah, I thought it was going to be more leaning on the side of humor than actual like fear.
Yeah,
because there were genuinely bits in this that I was like, oh shit, okay,
yeah,
all right, okay.
It's weird that some of the horror icons are the Scream mask person who just has a knife. And then you've got Mike Myers, who just has a knife. And obviously this was written by...
Except the guy in this one obviously does run.
Yeah.
Whereas
Michael
Michael Myers just walks.
But also this guy, spoilers, is guys. It's the two of them.
And they are insufferable as characters.
Oh, they're the worst.
They are the absolute worst.
Do you recognise one of them was Shaggy?
Yeah, I did. The whole time I was watching the film, I was like, I really recognise you. And then I did click towards the end that it is Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
The live action movies, which are banging.
They are banging, it's true. They are good films.
They are legit. The first one especially is great.
Oh, yeah, the first one's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's another horror film that we can add to the list.
Yeah.
Technically, it's kind of a horror movie.
Kind of is, yeah. But yeah, so I think I've seen mainly the ending and I've seen it referenced in a lot of stuff. I remember it being more comedic, but it's kind of like the dialogue is kind of silly
it's
and funny.
more the meta references to the other horror films that this director has directed.
And ones he hasn't directed.
And yeah, well, it's just like mentioning a lot of horror films, so it's kind of meta in that way. And then there's bits where there's one character, again, spoiler, that survives at the end.
Yeah.
And like, he knows everything about horror movies. So he knows the tropes, he knows the layout that it works. And there's one bit at the end where he's like, and this is the guy when the person that we all thought was dead magically comes back to life, or
he
suddenly comes back to life, and then he comes back to life and then he gets shot again. So obviously that's a comedic element.
Yeah. And he also points out the whole time throughout the film, tells you, he says that other guy is bad, he faked his incarceration or whatever, something like that, when he didn't fake it, but it was two of them, but he was still involved. I found that I did enjoy it. I just found that the two of them were so insufferable. By the end, it just kind of went off the rails a bit of them just constantly going on and on and on. That
guy with the horror movie tropes, he also knew that the guy, because he says, I reckon it's him, doesn't he? The boyfriend. He was like, don't tell me that that's not a killer.
Yeah, exactly.
So that guy is probably the comedic value to this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, the other two were unbearable, especially the guy who plays Shaggy.
Yeah, oh god.
That character was awful. It makes me think of like Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I got that.
But like on steroids. Like it was even more hyped up than Jim Carrey at points. It was just so exaggerated.
Yeah, I agree.
Realistically, is actually in hindsight, I'm like, okay, I should have seen that guy as a baddie, really, because his character is so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is weird. The film is very clever in a lot of ways, and it is very scary at points, and the gore is quite intense. It's just being like stabbed by someone.
Well, especially Drew Barrymore's character.
Oh yeah,
she gets killed and then gets hung from a tree by her intestines.
Yeah, and hanged, and the her boyfriend she watches get like gutted basically.
Yeah,
which is intense. So I did enjoy it. I felt it did go a bit off the rails with the two guys, but I found that the main actress, Neve Campbell, was really good.
Normally they're really annoying. Like, and frustratingly, as this is to say, a lot of the time the girls in horror films are even more particularly annoying.
Yeah.
Although saying that, there's Halloween and there's also this franchise that has a female lead.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is pretty good in the Halloween movies.
Yeah, they're not over the top. They're not super exaggerated. Whereas, like, you get other ones where the girls like are just so dramatic. I can't deal with it.
Yeah,
kind of like the first girl in the film that gets killed.
Yeah, well, then also the other badass in this film is Courtney Cox's character.
Yeah,
and Gail, I think it is, or something. And she's like the reporter. She comes in at the end and shoots one of them and saves them. Yeah. Yeah, so
she shoots him twice, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it is a good movie. It's kind of like a standard-ish slasher with just tons of references to other movies. And it's kind of, it's like a...
Well, you see Halloween being played in the film.
Yeah. It's not really... There's nothing about this film that's necessarily that new apart from the constant referencing of other horror films. Aside from that, it's nothing new, but it is still really good.
Well, as in...
For what it is, for really a slasher.
For us, it's not going to be new because there's going to be so many things that have been made since then.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean.
But, when this film first came out, was that stuff new?
Well, Halloween
had already happened.
And Friday the 13th had happened, and obviously...
Freddy Krueger had already happened because they referenced...
Nightmare on Elm Street, that's Wes Craven, the director of this film, did that. He also did Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He did a few horror films, plus you got the John Carpenter movies, Halloween and The Thing and stuff. So you've already got the slasher genres already in place, and that's why it keeps referencing them, because Wes Craven basically, along with John Carpenter, basically created a genre of horror, and then that became troped over and over again, and then this is like Wes Craven's answer to like a decade or two of tropes. Right. Being like,
so okay,
you can still make a good horror film basically like this, even if you do the tropes, if you do it right. Because the tent scenes are good. It's a good
Yeah, because there's also a bit in it where the girl's like, oh, is this the part? And she's like, I don't like horror films because the girl always should run out of the front door and they always go up the stairs. And then she literally does that thing herself later on. So, yeah, there are funny elements to it. Yeah. It's more irony.
Yeah, it's very ironic, a lot of the things intentionally.
Which surprises me for an American film, because Americans don't really get
the subtleties often.
Irony as much. No offense to any Americans listening, but that's just a thing that I've heard
our comedy,
repeatedly.
That's what a lot of American versions of remakes of films miss the point completely. They miss the subtleties of the storytelling and they just go for the clear, obvious, sort of surface level stuff. That's, I think, the criticism of the film industry. A lot of the time they just miss the point. But yeah, I enjoyed this film. What would you give it out of 10 for a
I find it difficult rating horror films because none of them are very good. Like most of them aren't good films.
It's
but
like
for a horror film, I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, you have to be in the mood for a horror film. Like you can't just be in the mood for anything.
Mike said yesterday, he was like, I like it when he gets to October because you're just so willing to watch horror films. But at no other point in the year. No. It's like only October. I was like, yeah, because it's the spooky season.
But like, no other time
yesterday, when we watched that film, so Scream, it was the 1st of October.
Yeah.
So literally,
the
first day of the month, Mike's like, should we watch a horror film? I'm like, yeah, it's October, let's crack on. So when we get to December, 1st of December, we can watch a Christmas film now because it's December.
Yeah, I mean, that's more your thing than my thing. I'm not as into Christmas films, but with Halloween, I love horror films. But yeah, throughout the year, I'm just like, don't really need to watch horror films. It's got my 1 month of watching horror films now. It's,
to be fair, whenever we get to October, we do watch a shit ton of horror films.
Oh, we watch like 20, so really 15 it's or 20 normally.
It's enough to last for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Unless there's a specific like thriller that comes out.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't mind watching that one that's had all the drama.
Oh, the one with Florence Pugh and Harry
Olivia
Styles.
Wilde, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer for that and it actually looked quite cool, but I don't know. But yeah. Otherwise, October is the spooky season.
Yeah. But what would you give this film anyway?
I don't know. I actually
give mine.
No, don't yet. I did quite enjoy this film. But again, it's not the same rating for a different genre of film. I think for a horror film, I think I'd give this an 8. I think that's my score.
Right.
I think that's quite high anyway.
Yeah, I was leaning between 7.5
I was thinking 7, but then I was like, I don't know, because I actually, out of all the horror films that we've watched, this is probably my favourite.
What, more than Halloween?
I think I prefer this to Halloween, yeah.
Well.
Solely because Halloween, there's logistics to it that don't make sense to me. Like, I don't understand how he literally catches everyone and all he does is walks. Whereas in Scream, the guy runs.
Yeah.
So, like, he can actually get you. So, I don't know where I'm going with this. I definitely prefer it to Halloween.
Right.
But I don't remember what I gave Halloween.
No, I think you gave it like 7.5 or 8.
Right.
So I think you probably give this an 8.
So I probably think I would give this an 8. I think that's my score. Until I see the other ratings, I think at the moment I'm giving this an 8 because I genuinely did enjoy it and I would watch it again.
Right, I see.
What I don't want to happen is watch all of them and then the franchise kind of get ruined because it's the same shit over and over again. Or what Halloween does, where it's like, oh, here's a film, then there's a sequel, and then the third one is literally not anything about the previous two, and now she's got a son. Oh, now suddenly she's got a daughter. But there's no reference to the son anymore.
Well, the thing is that Scream, there's only 4 Scream movies.
I know.
Until last year there was only 3, whereas, you know, with...
I think I would enjoy Halloween more if there wasn't so much mayhem in the timeline.
There's a trilogy, then there's another trilogy, and then there's the Rob Zombie 2 of them, and then there's the reboot trilogy with Jamie Lee Curtis, plus there's also H2O and Resurrection.
Oh,
so it's like there's 3, 6, 9, there's like 11 or 12.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm going to prefer Scream.
More than that even. No, so it's 14, 15.
Okay, whatever. Ignoring Halloween now. I think I'm going to give it an 8, and I think that's a fair score.
Yeah, it's fine. I give it a 7.5 because I found the villains too jarring at the end. If it wasn't for them being annoying, like too much for me.
Yeah, maybe if they took it
I'd
down
have given it an 8 or an 8.5. It's just that like, I would watch this again, but I just dread that bit because I just find them so fucking insufferable. They're like stabbing each other and things like that, and I'm just like, this is too
Yeah,
much.
because they needed to be the last survivors.
I know they did it, but the way they did it, I was like, oh god, I know maybe that was probably the point of making them insufferable, but it just pissed me off instead of making me engrossed in the story. It just took me out of it.
I feel like the
I just wanted
sex.
it to end.
I feel like the sex stuff didn't necessarily need to be in it.
No.
Like the whole sex storyline.
Yeah,
There was no need for
guy.
it. That like it didn't add anything to the film that there was this whole sex storyline, and to be honest, in hindsight, it's kind of confusing this whole thing with her mum.
Oh yeah,
and also the storyline as to whether her mum was innocent or guilty or what.
Yeah, it was like she was
It felt
kind of
just a
sleeping
bit
around
jarring.
and stuff, and you're like, what is she?
And then there's also the extra bit of now a man is who's in prison, who's on death row, is now not guilty.
Yeah,
because it's been evidenced that these two guys killed her. It's like
they're very convoluted stuff. It's like what? But they kind of like rush through it.
yeah,
it's a bit weird.
There's a lot of extra information.
Yeah, we'll see about the next couple. I've heard that the newest one is the best one. It's even better than the original. But then there's the other two, which I don't know much about. But the same actor, same actress, Neve Campbell.
All the way through.
Yeah. So
she must have a very unlucky life if she is the main character.
She's going to be like... She's
the main character in 4 horror films. It's kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis's character. It's like, there's only so much bad luck that can happen to one person.
So much trauma.
It's a lot of fucking trauma.
It is. We'll see how that all goes.
Mm.
But yeah, so thank you for listening as always, friends. We'll be continuing to watch the Scream movies, and we recently watched Hocus Pocus, so we're going to be doing a review on that soon.
And when we say recently watched Hocus Pocus, like we finished watching it about 5 minutes before we started recording this.
Yes, exactly. And so we've got a few other films we've written on a little list. Hopefully Evil Dead and Lighthouse.
No, save them.
Ooh.
Don't give it away.
Don't give it away. Don't give them all away.
No, it's our secret. You can't know.
That was a little teaser then. That was a teaser.
I gave you an accidental teaser.
That's our role. But please tell us what you thought of Scream. Tell us if there's any horror films in particular you would like us to watch. We'll consider them. And we'll see you.
Please don't make them too scary. I'm not okay with too scary films.
I'm okay with scary films.
Well, I have to watch them as well, Michael. I want to be able to not have nightmares.
That's a goal, to give Megan nightmares. But yeah, thank you, friends, for listening. And we'll speak to you very soon with a continuation of the spooky season.
Spooky, spooky season.
Goodbye. We're continuing the spooky season.
Spooky, spooky season.
Spooky season.
Spooky, spooky season.
Is that... That's that Chuckle Brothers.
That's
the Chuckle Brothers.
The Chuckle Brothers.
Anyone outside of the UK will have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. If anyone's listening and you don't know what Chuckle Brothers is, just type in Chuckle Vision into YouTube and go on the theme song. It's about 1.5 minutes long.
Have I met the Chuckle Brothers?
Well, one of them has since passed away, but one of them was like doing DJ sets in Oceania.
Yeah, they came to my
Barry Chuckle, wasn't it?
Let me finish my sentence.
No.
They came to my uni, but I can't remember if I was there for it.
Are you trying to pretend that you met someone?
No. I'm genuinely trying to remember because I went to university and then I went on my year abroad. I came back for my friend's birthday. Came back for Claudia's birthday, and there was a club that night that had a special guest, and I can't remember if that was the night that had the Chuckle Brothers or if it was a different night. So now I'm going to have to not right this second, but I'm going to have to go back and see if I can find the picture to remind me of whether it was the Chuckle Brothers. Because I'd be able to pinpoint the exact weekend and I know what date it was. Yeah. But I can't remember if it was the Chuckle Brothers. I feel like it's not.
Okay.
Because I feel like I would remember, but I was also pretty drunk. So.
Enthralling. Anyway.
I think one of them was a creep.
Wasn't one of the Chuckle Brothers as a creep? I heard that he occasionally would squeeze people's asses when taking photos.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. But I can't remember if someone told me that or if it happened when I possibly met them.
No, I saw a post about that on social media.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Yeah, classic.
Unfortunately.
Standard. Men primarily just keep their fucking hands to themselves. Yeah. Anyway, so
that's
we're not
a fun
talking...
little story for everyone.
Fun is a word I wouldn't use.
Do you know what?
So
everyone listens
ignoring
to this.
that.
No, everyone listens
God,
to
I
this.
just want to talk about this film I don't like.
Tough. You wanted me to do an afterthoughts. I'm speaking now. And now you're trying to silence me.
Hear that, everyone? He's trying to silence me.
It's because you're a woman.
It's because I'm a podcaster, and you can't understand how women can be good at podcasting.
That's not true.
Mike hates.
It's because, women can't podcast. It's just a fact. Anyway.
This is where the women flock.
If people don't know what we're talking about, check out our... Was it Disney Discussions or She-Hulk?
For what? Podcast?
It was She-Hulk, wasn't it? Because Disney Discussions came out recently, but we recorded She-Hulk last week. So listen to our episode on She-Hulk with Spider-Dan and Ms. Tonya Todd on the feed of Comics in Motion, because you get to hear where this whole is making a podcast thing came from, which I'm sure will be revisited when we do Disney Discussions next week.
Yep.
She's going to all that.
I told you that I need to go look at the chicken. Don't worry. We'll let the chicken burn in the oven.
Well, no, go check the chicken.
It'll be fine. It's only been in for like 5 minutes.
Okay, right. So, we haven't even said the film we're doing yet.
Hocus Pocus!
And no one's ever said it like that in the film, but yes, Hocus Pocus. So, you hadn't seen this film before, had you? She's shaking her head, which is not helpful for an audio-only podcast.
I'm mad at Mike.
What, because I mocked your way of saying Hocus Pocus?
Yeah.
Right. But you'd never seen it, and I've never seen it, and we thought, the second one's out, let's watch it. And
it's one of those films that's been on the list for a good... Well, I don't think we did spooky season the first year we were together, but we've had 3 spooky seasons now.
Yeah.
This is our 3rd spooky season of just watching horror films or Halloween-y type films in October.
Well, when we were first together, I tried to get you to watch quite a few, and you caved, and the only thing we watched was Nightmare Before Christmas. And that was the year after that. That was the first year. That wasn't
the first year that we were together.
Must have been second year then.
That was the second year. We didn't do spooky season. I distinctly remember that we decided to watch Nightmare Before Christmas because it's when I had Luke as my personal trainer.
Right. And
I spoke to him about we were going to either watch Blair Witch Project or Nightmare Before Christmas. So yeah, we didn't do a spooky season the first year.
No.
So this is our 3rd spooky season.
Yeah. And
Hocus Pocus has been on the list every single year.
Yeah, and apologies, you can hear Willow whinging. You may be able to hear her.
She's hungry. We need to feed her, but...
Well, it's not actually at dinner time yet. It's still like 20 minutes.
It's a little bit early still, yeah.
But anyway, so Hocus Pocus, it's a film that I'd heard of, but I'd never really had the desire to watch. And it was out in 93. And
it's a big film. Like,
it's
people
a
go on
cult
about
film,
this
yeah.
film.
When I post on social media, I have more reactions to that than any other film.
Well, I know people that have dressed up as the 3 witches for for multiple Halloweens.
It's weird because it's kind of like a kid-friendly horror film in a way.
Yeah.
But I just found it really, really didn't land for me. The whole film, I was like, I'm going to get it at some point, and then it ended, and I was like, about halfway through, I was just done with it.
The film finished. I will say, standard me, I did fall asleep. So there are a couple of bits that I don't remember. So like the zombie guy, like her ex-boyfriend, William something, Butcher. That's from The Boys. But he had his mouth sewn together.
Yeah.
And I don't remember
him undoing
it. Suddenly he was fighting on the good side, and I was like, when did that happen?
And I was like, he got a sharp blade. It was because they asked him to do one more thing and he didn't want to do it, and then he found a sharp object, cut open his mouth, and then called her a wench. And then went from there.
But my point here is that we finished the film, and then Mike was like, what did you think of that?
It's Billy Butcherson.
Oh, I was right.
So it's pretty damn close, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty damn close.
So... Yeah, Mike was like, no, I hated it, didn't like it. And I was like, oh, right, I thought it was all right. And he was like, what? I was like, oh, yeah, I quite liked it. I enjoyed it. And then Mike was like, so, against it. I was
so taken aback. I really didn't enjoy this film. I'm one of the few, I think, who didn't. I just found the 3 witches so annoying. And not in a, they're baddies kind of way, but they just annoyed me whenever they're on screen. I didn't find anything they were doing funny. I found this Sarah, the 3 of them.
Winifred is the main one.
Winifred's the main one, played by Bette Midler. Then you got Sarah Jessica Parker playing Sarah, and then you got Kathy Najimy playing playing Mary. And she was the one that annoyed me the most. She kept doing this weird thing with her mouth.
I think that's just the character. But I didn't realise, the whole film I was looking at her thinking that I recognised her.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if I actually did, which is why I never said it to you.
Right.
She's in Sister Act. She's one of the nuns in Sister Act.
I think I've only seen that film once.
Yeah, she's the one that becomes really good friends with Whoopi Goldberg's character.
Right.
She's basically one of the main nuns.
I just don't know.
I was like, oh, right, yeah. Okay.
I just found the mouth thing didn't help anything. It just really distracted me a lot. And then I found Sarah Jessica Parker's...
We haven't looked into it to see if there's an actual reason. I saw an article because I think there's been some uproar about her mouth changes in Hocus Pocus 2.
Right. I was thinking, I wondered if she did the mouth thing in Hocus Pocus 2.
I've seen online that people have been making comments or going against it, but I don't know what, because I didn't want to look into it because I don't want to spoil Hocus Pocus 2, because obviously that is literally a new film.
Yeah.
Like, it's different if these old films kind of get spoiled because they're old, but Hocus Pocus 2 is fresh.
It turns out that Sarah Jessica Parker, just looking at trivia on IMDb, that her 10th great-grandmother was arrested in Salem and for committing sundry acts of witchcraft and choking a neighbour to death. The case never went to court. She escaped with her life, and the accusation ended there. She got accused of choking a neighbour. She basically got accused of being a witch, yeah.
No, but it's the choking the neighbour part.
Sundry acts of witchcraft and choking a neighbour to death, and then she left. Because Sarah Jessica Parker did a thing, who do you think you are? It's basically
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's quite weird, isn't it? That's quite a cool little thing. But
apologies for that cough, everyone. That can't be edited out.
That's fine.
I would going into that. I would like to watch a few of those episodes because some of those episodes are really fucking interesting.
Yeah, I've heard they are interesting. We can take a look into that. I think it's a new series as well. Or it's been ongoing for a while.
I'd rather watch the UK one.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Anyway,
I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like any of the good people or the kids or the baddies. I didn't find any of them
the kids
funny.
In this one? Sorry, just because we've watched so many films recently.
Yeah, we've recently watched Halloween, which is...
And there's loads of kids in that, but I'm just trying to think of what the kids actually looked like because I can't picture them at the moment and it's annoying me.
So you got Max, who's that on Recats,
right, yeah.
Who was the main one, and then there's Danny. She was the only one who had any sense from what I can recall. And then... sorry, it's the kid who's too cool. They've just moved from they've moved from LA, haven't they? Yeah, and
they've gone into this little town. He has to take her out on trick or treating, and they bump into the girl that he fancies, Alison.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm up to date. I know. Yeah, the younger kid had some character to her. I liked her. I thought she was a good character.
She was alright. I found him quite annoying, and I just...
Just because he's too cool for school.
I found all the parents quite annoying as well. I just think everyone in this film grated on me. I just found them all really annoying, and I didn't really care what happened to any of them. And so the film was just kind of plodding along, and I'm just like, they're going to beat the witches now. Finally, cool. We're near the end of the film. Because I try not to look at how long it's been in a film. Because I try not to look at how long is left of a film, especially if I'm not enjoying it much, because then I find it then ruins it further. Because if there's still half an hour left or something, then whatever has just been resolved isn't fully resolved, things like that. So I was like, oh, cool, they're going to win soon. And then they don't. It's one of those sort of false hopes, false start sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And it was like, no, it's still not ending yet. And it was just like, oh, for God's sake. I just really didn't enjoy this at all. I am willing to watch the second one if you want to.
We have to watch the second one.
Okay. I want a break.
It doesn't necessarily have to be this Halloween.
No, it might as well. It came out this year. Might as well.
Okay, but then you say the same thing about the new Halloween film, no? Because I don't want to see that this year. Well, I don't want to go into this in too much detail because obviously we'll do another Afterthoughts about Halloween Kills. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it that much. I'm not fussed about watching it.
I enjoyed Halloween Kills and I really want to watch Halloween Ends. So I just think Halloween Kills is the weakest. But we'll talk about Halloween Kills when we record a specific episode about it. But yeah, Hocus Pocus, I just didn't really enjoy it. I found all the witches really annoying. Like, the effects were fine, and when they actually did magic, it was alright. But I just found that I don't understand why the main witch had Sarah and...
Because they're all sisters.
Well, they keep saying they're sisters, but...
I think they're sisters.
The actual full-on sisters then, by blood, because it seems like they just call each other sisters because they're all witches. That's what I thought.
Yeah, but regardless, even if you are actual sisters, sometimes she gets on with them and sometimes she doesn't.
It's not the getting on thing, it's just they're those kind of useless henchmen. That's a kind of trope of doing that, but they just seem to mess things up so frequently. But yeah.
Because they're the Sanderson sisters.
Oh, okay, right, there you go. So yeah, they're the three sisters. So that's why she kind of puts up with them, I suppose. But yeah, I just was not into it, really. What did you like about it then, rather than me just railing on it?
I don't know. It was nice to watch a film that people are hyped about that I actually did enjoy for once, because most of the time they're normally too hyped up. People go nuts for Beetlejuice, and I fucking hated that film.
That movie. That sucked. But I got Beetlejuice vibes from this. It was just less grotesque and less silly. It was just that kind of it was really, really silly humour, I think.
I don't know. I thought it was good. There's obviously elements of family.
Yeah.
And then you've got two fairly strong female leads in this film.
Yeah.
All the witches are obviously independent and whatever, and they're plotting and they are silly. and they are annoying, but they're fucking witches. So
Yeah, the main witch generally knows what's going on for the most part.
And they had a musical number in it.
They did have two, didn't they?
Fucking the main one that Winifred sings, and I can't remember. Is it "I Put a Spell on You"?
Yeah,
It's so good. It was really fun, and I didn't know that happened in it. And I love a musical number, so that was really exciting. I liked that.
I get why they put it in there. I didn't mind parts of the song. I just found it dragged on a bit for me. I was like, I didn't like the chorus that much, but.
And I thought there were elements of humour in this film as well. Yeah. Like there's the bit where she puts the spell on them, they have to dance until they die. And then at the end when the spell's broken, the dad is like, oh, well, these people know how to party like they do in LA. Like,
oh, yeah.
Because he's like, oh, this is such a small town. Who knew that they could party this hard? But obviously he's had a spell on him.
Yeah, they've been partying for that long. Yeah, and then there's the cat boy as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the cat boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he managed to get reunited with his sister. Although I will say, he comes back as a spirit guide, force ghost thing. But one thing that did really annoy me is that he's been waiting 300 years to be reunited with his family, and his sister comes along. He barely does anything. He literally looks at her and he's like, Emily, I think is her name.
Yeah, he gives her a hug.
Emily, and not even then. He talks to the rest of them before he gives her a hug. It's like, if I'd been separated from my brother from 300 years, I would be fucking excited to see him. And then he just walks calmly off into the distance holding hands with her.
I find it weird.
I'd be like, oh my God, Emily!
I'd also be like, oh my God, I'm finally not a cat. I'm going to have to live my life as a cat anymore. Like,
yeah, and
thank
also,
God.
shit, I'm actually dead.
Yeah, it's like all of that to kind of deal with. And he's like, hey guys, yeah, I'm just going to keep talking. And the conversation I was just having with you, let's just continue that. Sorry about that inconvenience.
And there are elements of kind of dark humour in this as well, because the same thing with the cat boy. With the cat boy, he gets run over by a car, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then the girl's crying, the little kid's bawling her eyes out, and he's like, oh, I hate it when that happens. Yeah, so he's obviously died multiple times, and probably has attempted suicide multiple times, and then can't die.
Yeah.
So there's also kind of dark humour in there.
Yeah.
So, good job, Hocus Pocus.
All reasons that you liked it, that's fair. So what would you give it out of 10 then?
So this is where I find it difficult. Probably a 7.
Right.
If I was going to watch either Hocus Pocus or...
So you said you sound like you quite enjoyed it, and a 7 is not that high.
Well, I gave Scream an 8.
Yeah.
But they're different kind of horror films. This isn't a horror. This is a Halloween film.
Yeah.
It would completely depend on my mood to even compare these two, because I was going to say which one would I rather watch, but because they're not of the same genre of film, it's too difficult to make that decision. I think I'd probably give this a 7.5.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think people do hype it up too much. But I did enjoy it. I'm gonna give it a 7.5, I think.
I think I'm gonna give it a 5.5. I was just not I don't think it's necessarily a terrible movie or anything like that. I was just not a fan of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I watched it again, maybe my vision would be skewed a bit because I did fall asleep slightly.
I feel like that did help you.
I don't know if I missed out a big chunk of
fat.
But
the middle part was really boring, and the bit where I was like, oh, I want this to be over, and you were like, go on. Is that okay?
I'm a sleepy girl.
No, I know. And it was like,
I watched 2 Halloween films that day.
I was also in the mood, and I was like, the thing is, I don't want to have to stop this and then continue watching it tomorrow. I was like, I just want to get it over and done with. So I was just like, Megan, just wake up. But yeah, I give it
7.5.
7.5 for you. I give it 5.5, and then we'll watch Hocus Pocus 2. We'll aim this year to watch that. So, my friends,
Terra everyone.
Yeah, then next is Halloween Kills, because that's the film we've already watched recently, and then we're going to watch another film.
Scream 2.
I
want to get the Scream franchise done this Halloween.
Yeah. And there's only 4 of them, so it's easy to do.
Yeah.
And Quiet Place.
That's better than Halloween, which has 10,000.
Yeah, we didn't watch 3 of them, did we? Anyway, guys.
Did we not?
No, we didn't watch Halloween 4, 5 or 6.
Right.
And we didn't watch the 2 Rob Zombie remakes.
Oh my Jesus,
either.
no. Come on, Halloween, sort your shit out.
Yeah, there's 4 timelines.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
There are 5.
Oh, well, we talk about this because this is a big issue for me.
We will. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to talking about Halloween Kills. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting us. As always, please let us what you thought of Hocus Pocus and tell me that I'm probably wrong, because I think I'm in the minority of
and
people who don't like it very
share
much.
it. Post on the social media. Get us more Patreons, because we want to share this with everybody else. This is why I'm not a podcaster. How fucking awkward was that?
That was great. I thought it was really good. But I know some of our patrons do talk about our
share us, like us, subscribe, give us a 5-star review.
On some of their respective shows, and when they come on my show, they do often mention it.
My God, £1 a month. I do appreciate that. £1 a month. That's crazy.
It's not very much. It's not even a coffee.
Not even a coffee.
It's like a loaf of bread.
It's like a pint of milk.
Like
Instead of buying a pint of milk, give us £1.
It's like 3 chocolate bars at Tesco.
No, that's £1.20, mate.
Yeah, but if I think, whatever. Anyway, thanks guys so much for listening. We'll speak to you.
It's less than 3 chocolate bars.
I mean, they're the.
Tesco.
We're not trying to. We don't have to convince these guys who are listening.
Share
they're
us.
the ones that are already doing that. They're aware.
Thank
it only
you,
costs
everyone.
a loaf of bread.
It's less than 3 chocolate bars at Tesco.
Yeah, thank you, friends.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate the support. But we will speak to you very soon with Halloween Kills and then Scream 2.
And also thank you to those people. Thank you to those people that pay maybe double the amount of 3 chocolate bars at Tesco.
There are some of you.
Thank you to everyone that does.
There are some of you.
We love you and appreciate you.
We love you all equally, though, for contributing, though. It's a big thing anyway.
No, it's shared. So out of 100...
we split into 100, then each person, every pound they give,
everyone
get
gets
a percentage
of the share depending on how much they give us.
Yeah, the share of my love and adoration.
Yeah.
Yes, friends. Thank you so much. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Need to get the chicken out the oven.
You have just experienced host, creator, everything elser of Genuine Chit-Chat, and also the host and creator of Star Wars Comics and Canon, found on the Comics in Motion podcast, Mike Burton.